Good morning, folks. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. My name is Rachel Wilkins. I am your host and the founder of Conception Arts. Delighted to be with you this morning, kicking off Monday, kicking off a great week with an awesome guest. I'm joined this morning by contemporary pop artist, Dallas and Miami-based Captain Casual. Captain, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
How are you doing?
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Do you have a good, strong cup of coffee or something fun in your?
I do. Yes. Per recommendations, I've got a cup of coffee, stolen coffee mug from this place in LA that I really liked, and ready to go.
Well, I think I would be remiss if I didn't comment on my crazy mug this morning. This is my wife's face.
Yes, I recognize her, of course.
Also my face. This has to be one of the funniest and most awesome gifts my mom has ever given me. So it had to make an appearance. The funniest thing about this story, though, this mug, is this was actually my mom's second attempt at making this mug. The first attempt, she chopped off our heads, so it was just the top part of our heads on the mug, which I wanted to keep that mug because it was amazing. But here we go.
So good. It's good to have a backup.
Exactly. So welcome. It's super awesome to have you here. We've obviously met quite a few times in Dallas. You exhibited with us at conception shows, and also we worked together on Brewfest, which was a huge event. Over 500 people. It was a lot of fun. So I'm going to jump right in with this question because I think that there's a lot to unpack. But so in December 2015, your heart stopped. You died.
12 seconds.
For 12
Not a near-death experience, an actual death experience.
You were dead. You flatlined for 12 seconds.
Yeah. So I was actually getting like a chiropractic adjustment and fainted. I was with my wife, and she called the ambulance. I began to seize and stuff, so the ambulance came, and on the way to what we thought was a routine trip to the hospital just to get some diagnostic tests run, I actually began to feel terrible and died right there, and woke up in the back of the ambulance to then cutting my shirt off, and just woke up completely changed. And that's when I kind of woke up as Captain Casual, as so to say, and knew that, a lot of people say that, oh, I changed everything, but I was just completely changed afterwards. So everything that I did was naturally different. So it was really something else.
So we're going to go back and talk a little bit about what your life looked like before, and obviously what it's like now. But talk us through that process of this crazy health scare. And you were a relatively young man when this happened, right?
Yeah, 26.
Okay.
And I actually have a heart condition, so I have what's called an enlarged heart. Afterwards, we got a heart monitor installed to make sure that I didn't die again. And after 3 years, doctors deemed me healthy and good, and so we got the heart monitor out. That was about 2 years ago, and been living, just with a different perspective ever since. So I actually am pretty glad that it did happen, because my life changed dramatically, and looking at what it is now and what it would have been is pretty cool.
Now, was there any warning signs? Were there any health issues that you had leading up to this, or did you have like a family history, or did this just come right?
So I had a history of fainting, but and that's what ultimately happened is I fainted, and when I fainted, my heart stopped for those 12 seconds, and so we didn't really know the extent of it. I was very athletic growing up. We didn't think much of it, and then turns out I actually have a much lower heart rate than the average person. So my heart beats around 30 to 40 beats per minute, where the average heart beats 60 to 70 beats per minute. So considerably slower, and that, maybe that's what makes me so casual. But no, and I'm able to laugh about it now, but obviously it was scary times, and just kind of, as so to say, pulled myself up from my bootstraps, and was was, just got my life in the direction that I wanted it to go in.
So before this, the pre-casual, BC, I guess.
Yeah, PC.
Tell us about how your life looked, because you were working as a stock and options trader, right?
Yeah, I was. So I was actually, I specialized in volatility, very, very kind of, stressful type of life. I was a derivatives trader, options, stock and options. And I basically was a strategist and a trader. And so very, very kind of, stressful and fun. I learned a lot. I was actually the guy. I held a big wooden hammer and I rang a big brass bell that was on my desk. And so I did that every morning at open and close of the market. So that was a very fun life. I was one of the youngest on the desk by like 10 years. Charts just kind of clicked for me. So I was able to kind of advance maybe quicker than I should have. So I was a young gun on the desk, but it was really fun. And then ultimately, to make a longer story short, I died, left the trading desk, went into consulting, and then did consulting work for about 4 years while it overlapped with my art career. And then about 10 months ago, I don't know, I've lost time during this quarantine, who knows? But around then, I left and went full-time art. So
that's incredible.
It's been a nice journey, but
yeah,
I'm happy to be here now.
It's been great to kind of follow your success from, knowing you for a couple of years and seeing that journey. You really have, have had a certain level of success, and you're showing in Miami, and you're, popping up all over the place. So congratulations on that.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm winging it just like anybody else, and having a blast during it. So it's working out according to whatever plan I make a couple weeks ahead of time.
And I think that's a really great message to people, because I think so many folks think that they see somebody having a certain measure of success and they think, oh, they must have a certain or they must have a certain ability or education. A lot of the time, so many of us are just winging it, right? We're just learning on our feet as we go.
Yeah, you're right. I think when you're younger and when you don't have it all figured out, you think that everybody that's older than you has it figured out. And I think you always will think that. I still probably think that 50-year-olds have it figured out, but they're probably looking at 70-year-olds being like, that's when I'll figure it out.
Yep.
So here I am, I'm 32 now, looking forward and wondering when I'm going to figure it out. But I don't think that you do. I think along the way, if you can figure out that the journey is the best part, and just thrive in that, that you'll end up getting to an even better place.
Absolutely. And I love, I think it was Richard Branson said, say yes and figure out how to do it later.
Yeah, exactly. That's an old adage, right? Commit to the work, whatever they ask, say yes, and then, do the research, and you'll learn along the way and you'll figure it out. And if you hold yourself to a high standard of quality, it'll end up being great, no matter what. So I've certainly abided by that statement many times in the past.
You and me both. I was like, let's do an online show. I've never done an online show before, but you know what? We figure it out. We have tech problems, we have connection problems, and we roll with it. And that's what you do, trial and error.
Exactly.
So before we go back even further, because I want to talk a little bit about your early days and growing up in Dallas.
Cool.
We were a little symbiotic this morning because I put on my Be Nice pin. To align with Casual's message, and you have on your hand,
it's a tattoo.
Be nice to people. An actual tattoo, not written in pen. It's
worn off a bit now just because I use my hands so much, but it's nice. It looks even more, kind of drawn on there. A great friend and good artist, or a good friend and a great artist that I know, CB Hoyo. He's, a fantastic guy. I had him actually design this special for me. Even though it looks very thrown together, it's actually his handwriting and font. So it's pretty special to me. He's a good guy.
That's awesome. And so much of your work, and we're going to talk more about your work as we move forward, but so much is about positivity, putting out good vibes to the universe, making people stop and kind of question their, happiness and mood. What is it about that, and why did you decide to channel your energy into
that's everything. So that's really the journey to me, is spreading my positivity, happiness, perspective that, life is short, time to kind of enjoy it now. And so, like we kind of referenced previously, I woke up with a new perspective, came back to life, and kind of one of the things that I wanted to do, because I had gained so much perspective and it had given me the ability to adopt such a positive outlook, is that I wanted to spread that message. And so I wasn't, a great singer. I wasn't, I wanted to figure out a way to kind of shout my message from the rooftops, right? So I decided, I guess I'll paint the rooftops instead. So I was already into art as kind of a hobbyist. I painted in college a few times. I went to business school at Baylor University. And I painted a couple of times just to pick up chicks and, have fun at parties and stuff like that. But when I got the job in the investment firm that I went to, I pretty much dropped all of it and stopped all of it. So when I woke back up, I did a painting 2 days out of the hospital. It felt amazing. I was just thrilled by it. And I decided I wanted to do more of that. And a couple of people, bought paintings from me within those couple months. And then about 3 or 4 months into that, the Huffington Post did a story on me. And that really got kind of a snowball kind of rolling. I was very fortunate to just have one of the writers came across my Instagram and was just kind of moved by my story and my character. I guess I've always been kind of a enthusiastic person. So I don't know. I feel like I've been talking a lot, but
that's all right. That's what we're here for.
Art is a method of spreading positivity.
That's amazing. So tell us about your early days. You grew up in Dallas. Mm-hmm. You come from a big family.
I do. I have 2 little brothers, an amazing mother and father, aunts and uncles that have lived nearby, and grandfather and grandmother that lived nearby as well. So I was fortunate to live close by family, and then grew up. My father did well within his travel quite a bit. And so I've actually been to 35 different countries. Yeah, a lot of them sailing and stuff like that. He was really into sailing as we grew up. So I've been all over the world, and what that was able to do was get me very close to my family. I'm a total mama's boy. I talk to my mom almost every other day, if not every day, and we just kind of fire stuff back and forth. She's a great woman. My dad, has always been an amazing role model. And then my 2 brothers, I think I've been a really good big brother to them.
That's amazing. And you mentioned being kind of creative here and there throughout your later years, your teen years. Do you remember ever having an early passion for creating and painting?
Yes. Art class, when you're going to high school and when you're in middle school and stuff like that, art class is always, really, a place to kind of, or it served for me anyways as an outlet. The stresses of 7th and 6th grade, right? Well, what a life to think that those were the biggest stresses you were going to experience ever. But yeah, I always had a lot of fun in art class. And my mom, actually, so one time we were doing this paper mache project. This is a story I've literally never told anybody, but my mom tells it to people. She loves this story. we were doing a paper mache thing, and I made a paper mache dog that was lifting its leg and peeing. And the art teacher was furious and came up to my piece of art and ripped the pee stream off of the dog, which looking back is very avant-garde modern art, you know. It's very
empowering, a little Jeff Koons.
Way ahead of my time. But she ripped it off and put me in tears. I was, you know, maybe tears. I don't know. My mom says tears. I think I was a little more manly back then. But and she came up to the school to defend me, only to find out that it was a dog peeing. And she was like, "You can't do that." And so I indeed didn't get away with it, but it's still sitting within one of their gallery rooms at our home.
That's amazing. Without the peeing leg, or
without the pee stream, that was thrown away, if you can believe it or not.
So, how have your family responded to this new path?
You know, they're really proud. They're really proud. I think at first they were skeptical, right? But I overlapped it in such a way, you know, there was 4 years of overlap. So it wasn't like I, you know, woke up and I was like, "Guys, I'm leaving investments and I'm going to start painting." And they're like, "You're not a great artist yet." Because back then, you know, it's been 5 years. I've progressed quite a ways. So back then, you know, not to say that my paintings weren't, you know, great pieces of art, but they weren't to the caliber that I think or hold myself to now. So they would have been skeptical had it been a maybe cold turkey, but because of the overlap, they really believed in it. I was able to kind of, how do you say, nourish it and develop it behind the scenes. Because when you're starting out, a lot of the art career takes place from, you know, 5 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. when you get home after a full day's work to like 12 a.m., you know, midnight. So a lot of people don't actually see that work. And it took a lot of work to make it look like I was a full-time artist long before I actually was. It's all about staying busy and motivated and just pushing yourself. And luckily, I had the drive to do that. And so I guess I just keep talking until I forget what the question was. So sorry about that.
That's better than the alternative. Believe me, it would be much better than if I was talking to myself. So this is
exactly. Just like one of the answers.
Yeah. So how has your process evolved? You know, I think we don't really talk a lot about the fact that we do spend time as artists making what we consider crappy art, right? I do it myself. And now what I've learned to do is I buy big rolls of paper. So I don't go straight to canvas. And I paint on paper till I really get comfortable with that style. And then I'll move on to the canvases. But I've made a lot of crappy art in my time. How has your process evolved? And where's kind of where do you feel like you're finding your voice right now?
You know, one thing I think that ties to people's process a lot is how they make decisions. I would imagine that you're quite well thought out and planned out, maybe make a list before you go somewhere or kind of a to-do list of things, and really think it out before you take action. And that ties to the way that you do your paintings. I'm incredibly impulsive. So I go straight to canvas. I oftentimes don't even sketch it out first. I just go straight to it. I grew up with intense ADD and ADHD. So when I've drawn it once, I'm really good with it. You know, so if I've tried that and I just don't even want to do it a second time, I'm like, okay, that's good. Let's move on. And if you look at some of my artwork, it's so varied. I switch back from style to style, and it allows me to keep it very fresh. So I really like the ability to kind of jump back and forth and also jump straight into projects. So I just go full full bore. And if I don't end up liking it, I paint over it. That's not to say that I haven't painted over lots of paintings. And it's hilarious. Sometimes, I'll have a painting hanging on my wall for a couple of months, and then I'll add a couple of lines to it, and I post it that way, and people are like, oh, and they buy it right away. So sometimes it's just missing a little something. So it's good to treat everything like a work in progress sometimes.
It's funny because your analysis of me as a painter is totally the opposite, which I think surprises people because I'm very strategic in other areas of my life. But when it comes to painting, I tend to just kind of go right in.
Yeah.
The only problem is with that, I went through too many canvases too quickly. I like the idea of kind of the freedom of just expressing and then, like you said, kind of going back, revisiting and really fine tuning the little details.
Yeah. Framing what you like.
So a lot of your work is very playful, it's fun, it's vibrant. What drew you to this? And also pop culture, you feature a lot of iconography, pop culture figures, very pop art style. What was it that drew you to this particular genre?
I suppose it's probably a mixture of things. One, it's aesthetically pleasing to me. I really like to look at my style of art. So one thing about making paintings, and I'm sure that you can attest to this, you want to do paintings that you don't mind having hung around your house for a little while until they sell. It is. So I'm glad that I like my style of art. So really, it was just a way of, reinterpreting what I find aesthetically pleasing and then putting it out through my own art style. Much of the imagery that I use is far more dull in its original form than when I sort of put it out the casual way. So I think that that's what a lot of artists do when they're being true to themselves, is that their art is an interpretation of how they view the world and various events and what they see when they look at a blank canvas. And so, like this, I just, goofing around. I really like just the look of this. So this is a 5 foot by 5 feet horizontal. Well, it's vertical now, but I painted it when it was horizontal. And each line is hand spray painted. I have over 100 different colors of spray paint, and I make somewhat of a rainbow of just strewn about colors. So this 5 foot by 5 foot is actually going to be teamed up with 3 more, and it's going to make a 20 foot by 5 foot painting that's going to go in a law firm downtown. Nice. So, just winging it and having fun, I guess is a way to say it.
That's amazing. So tell us about your collectors. What kind of people resonate most, or what kind of folks are drawn to your work, and what's the general reaction that you get when people view your work?
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you to all my collectors, making literally my dreams come true and allowing me to live this amazing life. So my collectors that are watching, love you. Future collectors, can't wait to be friends with you, because I actually do try to keep up with my collectors and actually keep up, somewhat of a friendship if they're open to it or if they want it. I'm receptive to their messages. I put them in the primary section of my messages so that when they message me, I get it right away. It's the collectors are the family. So I do have, and I'm happy to say that I have such a wide, eclectic group of collectors. It's really something. Through all walks of life, because I do the different styles, right? So I have, and I guess I'll show these real quick while we're on the topic. So here's one of my more pop art oriented pieces. Here's the jungle.
I always love the foliage in your studio. It looks so relaxing and casual.
very casual.
Yep, definitely eclectic.
Yeah, so it's a good mix. So I have, I'm lucky and fortunate to say that I have collectors kind of all over the world. I'm actually I'm packaging up right now two paintings that are going off to Italy. Um, I think they're still in lockdown, so she needs some art. And my collectors are really fun, all ages, all walks of life. I've sold to corporations. Neiman Marcus, I sold a painting to Neiman's. I sold a lamp to the owner of Nobu. I've done some stuff for Nike, Under Armour. I've got some really, some really cool clients. I had, oh man, I can't remember his name. Oh well, but I've great people to make the short story really long.
So you just mentioned the lamp, right? I wanted to talk a little bit about the extension of your artwork, which is something that you've really dove into in this last year, is apparel. You've got some really amazing, super fun, again, super positive message clothing. So tell us about that shift and how that's working out for you.
Yeah. So apparel and fashion. I love fashion, and I have a bit of a shopping problem myself. So it was kind of a natural transition for me to want to create clothing. I had always done it for myself, and people were always like, "Man, where'd you get that?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I made this." My wife was used to work in screen printing, so I was able to get really nice shirts made all the time, and I would just make them for myself. If I'm going to wear a shirt, why not wear one that says "Be Casual" on it? And then I started to give them away with paintings when they sold. So then all my collectors had shirts. And then, other people started to want to order the shirts. And then, next thing, a couple of brands asked what type of thing I might do. A close personal friend, Buddy Love, who owns with his wife a clothing company called Buddy Love, coincidentally, reached out and asked about the sweatshirts. I think you actually own one of the sweatshirts, if I'm not mistaken.
I almost owned one, and then we parted ways like right at the end of the show. But I'm going to order one, and I want you to send it to me. I need, especially now, because this is a casual time. I need my casual shirt.
Yes, you need one. Exactly. They're comfortable while you're in quarantine.
Yep.
But so that was kind of creative. Did I lose you?
No,
there you are. So that was kind of creatively, but strategically, it was a way to kind of open up an additional lanes of income that allowed me to become a full-time artist. So, it was kind of multifaceted. It was a way for me to expand my brand, as well as make cool clothing that I can wear if it doesn't sell, or that other people can wear. And it is such a cool feeling to see somebody wearing your clothing. It's really cool.
Let's talk about that a little. The kind of the validation that you get when somebody purchases, wears, hangs your art. It's a very unique feeling, and it's something that I don't think you get with other commodities per se. Like you actually, I read in your HuffPost interview, you said that you don't like to think of art as an investment because folks should not have an emotional attachment to an investment. Tell us a little bit about that and how it feels to have somebody purchase your art.
It's really cool. You're right. What a feeling, right? It's addicting. And I think that that's one of the feelings that probably keeps a lot of artists in it. The feeling of seeing a person's happiness when they view your art. That's really great. I love to look at a person's face as they view my art because it really induces happiness. And to see a person become happy from something you created is awesome. And then, around Christmas time or the holidays when people are buying paintings to give to loved ones, and that you helped make that morning or that birthday or that, event a special event and a memorable one, that now they'll have that painting. When they look back, they'll remember, Christmas of, 2018, right? It's really cool to have that feeling. And again, if we look back and circle back to kind of the message and the reason that I got into this whole thing, as far as spreading positivity and helping to create a more colorful environment for people, then when you think about how that directly relates to the validation of a person purchasing your art, allowing you to spread that message, it's amazing. And you're right, you don't experience it until you experience it. And then when you do, you're like, wow, I'm gonna go paint a second painting. Like, that was fun.
Immediately.
Yeah, like right now, why am I here?
And for any artist out there, perhaps who's just starting out and maybe hasn't had that experience yet, it doesn't happen right away, right? It can take time.
It's frustrating.
What would be your advice to them?
There's one thing that somebody said to me, and it totally made sense. So when you get started in art, you're usually an art fan first. You're usually a really big fan of art, and you develop good taste in art. And then you go to create art, and your skill doesn't match up to your taste just yet. And that's a really tough feeling of oh my gosh, it looked so different in my head. How did I do this? How did this happen? And that's a tough feeling, and you have to get through that feeling for a while. And maybe even figure out a different style of art to create in, or a different way to practice, or a different method of creation. But there is that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as I enjoy art, because you don't enjoy the art that you start out painting. And, maybe do it on just a canvas, not a framed one. Because I do have a closet full of those paintings right now that I look back and I'm like, that's cool. And I can see where I was going. But one of my collectors nowadays would never look at it the same as my art now. So, you struggle with, do I even want that out there? Do I even want people to see that? And, you don't, at one hand, you don't want to forget where you came from, and you want people to see your growth. But at the other time, you have to be okay with that you are going to grow, and that you're going to start out unskilled, because, you were terrible at math at one point too, but you spent years of your life learning it. Now you use a calculator. A lot of things in life are tough, and create work. And so you just got to be ready for it.
Well, for the record, I'm still terrible at math. Terrible.
Jeez. But I got really good at a calculator. I was a derivatives trader. Wow. And not great at math, but really good at a calculator. I wrote an algorithm. Yeah. So
wow.
One of my favorite things that's on my wall is a momentum algorithm that I designed years back after Tesla stock. And so, I about 6 months before I passed away, I got into algorithmic trading, and I wrote algorithms, which that is such a fancy word. Basically, that's just teaching a computer how to trade stocks the way that I would. And so,
Just for the record, for anybody who's tuning in late, when Captain Casual says before he passed away, Captain is not joining us from the afterlife today. he in fact died for 12 seconds and had a total
second life.
He's
alive.
We've not advanced technology and are communicating from the great beyond. Although that would be a heck of an interview score. Woohoo! Um,
That would be cool.
but yeah, so let's go back to that again because you did have this not near death experience, this death experience.
Yeah.
You were dead for 12 seconds in the back of an ambulance. We talk about second chances at life and changes of perspective. What else did you realize was valuable at that time? And how did your family and your loved ones react to this really kind of catastrophic event that happened to you and could have been so much worse?
That is such a good question. Don't let me talk forever. But second chances, what is cooler than that, right? We all love them. And to come back and then be able to look forward, you realize what you need more of. And I decided I needed more love, a little bit more leisure. I was spending a lot of time doing research and trading. I was really burning the candle at both ends. So I realized that health was important, obviously, and family. And so I started spending a lot more time with my wife, with my loved ones. I started saying I love you a lot more to people. I started just holding the door open for people 5-10 yards away because, you just want to be nice to people. Be nice to people.
Mm-hmm.
So what? Yeah, exactly. Be nice. So, I realized a lot of the little things that I took for granted were some of the biggest things, and just how to more properly balance leisure and work. And when I say leisure, kind of all encompassing, family, love, time to just sit on the couch and watch Netflix, which we all love and enjoy that time, right? Just doing things exclusively that I enjoy, or that are good. So
I think so many of us forget, we get so caught up in this. And I think social media has a lot to do with this, but where we should be at, this ideal lifestyle that's portrayed online. We're all so much in that journey towards accomplishment or goals, and we don't
yeah.
take enough time to just kind of step back. And if nothing else, this experience is really enforcing that upon us.
Yeah, I think that the quarantine effect is going to be quite profound, on how people live their social lives after this. Obviously, not in many facets, whether it's how they interact with one another, I've got people, I mean, it's a certain time now, but who knows if people will shake hands the same way. There will be certain people that just don't want to shake hands. I'm a bit of a germaphobe. I'll, be a bit different. I think hand sanitizer is going to be a bit more rare for a while. But no, I think from a perspective standpoint, I hope that the quarantine effect does show that to people how precious life is, how short it truly is, and that enjoying your time outside is really important. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
How have you navigated this new normal? Has it impacted you creatively?
Bless you. I think I heard a sneeze in the background.
Bless you, Jen.
Sorry.
This is not a dog bark today. He's fast asleep, thankfully.
I'm sorry. What?
How is? Yeah, we totally lost our trail of thought. So how has it affected you? Have you been able to create? Are you feeling not creative? What does it look like?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I was struggling a bit with kind of an uncreative funk for like a couple of days. But ultimately most artists have a million ideas and just not enough time to paint them. And I think I'm kind of one of those. So I've certainly had no shortage of kind of ideas that I want to paint. It was tough getting canvases for a while. You had to order them and get them delivered and whatnot. But kind of two things. So one, I figured out that my lifestyle that I lived prior to this is called quarantine. Um, because I pretty much already was quarantining and just creating art all day. I did go out to eat considerably more, but with that being said, being cooped up inside is not the worst thing in the world for an artist. It's given me a lot of time to be productive, examine some of my processes, some of my creations, both prior and kind of future. And actually, the universe has been rather kind to me. It's given me a number of projects to work on, and whether it be commissions or things of that nature, to do. So I've been actually rather busy during this quarantine time creating art for people.
That's wonderful. And I've actually heard from quite a few people that, the sales numbers are not horrible. People are actually buying.
If you think about it, people are cooped up in their house, looking at their blank wall, being like, "Man, I wish that wall looked cooler."
Yep.
And that's kind of what artists do for a living. We make walls look cooler. So I think that there is kind of a bit of correlation. Unfortunately, economically, it's been tough times for a lot of people. So there certainly is kind of a portion of the population that has not fared as well. But many people are still working, or maybe had an art fund prior to this, and have been able to go shopping. So
amazing. So how has influence impacted your work? Whether that is folks the artists, living or dead, that have influenced your work, or just being around so much art, because you have shown in places like Miami. How do you navigate that?
Like what I'm influenced by?
Yeah, and do you find sometimes that perhaps influence is not a great thing, that
Well,
it takes you away from your own voice?
yes, that's certainly true. You want to be careful who you ask for advice, because everybody's going to give you, their advice. And if you ask too many people, it's going to pull you in too many directions. So early on, you kind of want to find your advice sources that you trust and that align with kind of your direction. And you find that just through consistency. And you want to start to only go to that advice, kind of seek that out. Not that you want tunnel vision or anything like that, but it's certainly important to limit your intake of influence. But with that being said, I personally find influence in a multitude of different things. One is nature. You see, obviously, a lot of plants around. I'm really motivated and driven by the beauty of nature. And a lot of my paintings are just, obviously, it's pop art and stuff like that, but it's just what I know as an output. And as an input, nature really works for me, fresh air, stuff like that. From an art perspective and a creative standpoint, I respect so many artists. I really do. A lot of modern day artists that maybe are not famous in many galleries and things like that, but within the circles that the art circles, they are very well known, and I find them extremely motivating. So I don't know if you want me to name drop or anything like that, but
I guess
yeah.
I'm intrigued to know who your creative heroes are, if you have any.
My creative jurors?
Heroes.
Heroes? Oh, creative heroes. Oh my gosh. Man. Liechtenstein. I love Warhol, Basquiat, modern day artists. Big fan of King Saladin, Timmy Sneaks. There's going to be so many that I just forget, because one of the funny things about the internet and the way that it works and Instagram is that I really limit who I follow on Instagram, and so I get a really good selection of inspiration just from artists that I follow. And some of them I don't even know their names. I just kind of know their online Instagram names and stuff like that. But with that being said, I'm also deeply inspired by street art. That's one of the reasons I kind of spend every other month in Miami, is because I love just skateboarding around, looking at the street art, bouncing around from kind of gallery to gallery, and eating amazing food, and the beach. Love beaches. As I said, I grew up sailing and stuff, so love kind of the ocean and the water and stuff like that. So
I think Miami, especially around December, is like I've referred to this before, but it's like the Disneyland for artists. It's
Basel.
It's amazing
in general. Yep. Yeah, it's an amazing place.
It's so vibrant. It's like you said, great food, amazing. So you mentioned you traveled to 35 countries, which is pretty impressive. What would you say was the place that perhaps gave you the biggest influence perhaps on your art career? What inspired you the most?
A lot of my travels were prior to my art career. I was, fortunate enough to be kind of drug around the world by my father with my family. So a lot of my travels these days are solely to like pinpoint locations that I really enjoy, which is Miami. My family has a beach house down in a different part of Florida that I like to go to. My wife and I got married in Mexico, so I love going to Mexico. But from a travel perspective, some of my most influential places that I look back on now and really recollect and as kind of previously stated, my kind of art inspiration, both nature and creatively. Nature, my favorite trip was Tahiti. I really, we spent a month kind of sailing around the islands of Tahiti, and then spent a week or so in those little overwater bungalows. And that was like the coolest thing ever.
That sounds casual.
I'm sorry?
That sounds casual.
Very Captain Casual-esque, right? And then another one, we spent some time in Europe, and Venice was amazing. Same with Florence. And then just the architecture alone. You really just get a respect for all types of creatives, and you kind of see your place in a bigger creative world. And you realize that you have so long to go and so much work to do. And it's inspiring to see, like the Sistine Chapel. It's pretty cool to walk around there and see something that magnificent that's just stood the test of time, and think about, wow, and I dare not compare myself. But you think about your art lasting longer than just a couple of years. And a lot of artists, I don't know if they think about that when they create, when they think about their art in 50 years, let alone 100 or more. And, it's just kind of cool to think about.
It sure is. We actually, we were in Venice last year, and we wanted to go see the Vatican. And so we looked at one of those tours, and it was a group tour, and, it was pretty expensive, but, we felt that we would get a better experience with a guide. And, it said show up at 7 a.m. to the Vatican. So, we get there and it's pitch dark. And somehow, by some luck, we ended up being the only people that showed up for that group tour. So it was literally just us and the guide. And
nice.
It was crazy. We were there as they opened the doors to the Vatican. We were the first people in the Vatican.
Oh, you gotta love that. That's cool.
It was insane. We walked around. By the way, neither of us are Catholic, so it was totally wasted on us. But I doubt
it. I'm sure you still loved it all.
It was incredible to see just the beauty, and see the sunrise as it's coming up, and be in the Sistine Chapel with nobody else. Like, I think there maybe was two other people that came in, briefly. It was just unreal. And like you said, the legacy of these artists is just
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
great,
So I'm going to
great.
ask you about what you hope your legacy is going to be. We're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do, does anybody have any questions for Captain Casual? If you do, just drop them in the comments right here, and we're going to visit them in just a few moments. So first of all, before we talk about legacy, where in the world did the moniker Captain Casual come from?
Ooh, the moniker Captain Casual. So it was casual long before it was Captain Casual. I used to obsessively say the word casual on accident. I don't know why. I was a crazy person, and I would just say casual a lot. When I was at Baylor University, it was a word that my fraternity used a lot. I don't know, just to, yeah, casual. Oh yeah, I casually did this, or oh, just casual, and it just clicked with me, and I began saying it a lot, and then I became casual. People started calling me casual, and that went on for some time. And when I was creating an Instagram, and this was actually prior to it being my art name, I was a watch collector, and I had a lot of watches, and I would post pictures of my watches under the name Captain Casual. And then when I kind of came back, I created an Instagram for myself and made it Captain Casual. And so just to kind of formalize it, I suppose. I think it was like casual, but in a respectful way, like a captain, like Captain Casual. And I was like, that sounds really good. Let's go with that.
That's amazing. Amazing, amazing. All right. Well, tell us what you hope to kind of leave this planet with. What would you hope your legacy as an artist to be?
Man, that's so deep. And I think that, overarching, I want to be known as just a very kind person that helped spread positivity and love through art, who kind of not necessarily beautified, but kind of maybe happified, if I can coin a term, maybe just somebody who brightened their surroundings and made people feel special, maybe more so than they did before they saw my art or encountered myself.
Awesome. All right. Well, Captain Casual, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sharing, such a personal experience that happened to you. I think it's an inspiration for everybody out there. There are second chances to be had. You don't have to die for 12 seconds to have a second chance.
There are easier ways. Yep. I don't recommend it. Don't try this at home.
All right. So for anybody out there that's watching, how can they get a hold of you? What is your website address, and how can they purchase some of your awesome artwork?
Sure. Thank you. So shameless plug, I suppose. My Instagram is Captain Casual with no spaces. It's just at Captain Casual. My website is captaincasualart.com. So captaincasualart.com, a majority of my art is on that website. I have a few, I have works with sprinkled around Dallas and Miami. But the best place to view it is Instagram and my website. So
fantastic. All right. Well, I've popped the website right there in the comments on YouTube and on Facebook. So do go check out the Captain's work. And thank you for joining us for today. And let's keep a thing casual. All right.
Very casual. Cheers. Have a good one.
We'll be back tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.